60 minutes. That's all the time separating you from the end of everything you know. It doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what you're doing right now. If the red phone rings, in 1 hour you'll be living in a completely different world. Or maybe you won't be living at all. This isn't science fiction. This is the result of one of the most terrifying experiments ever conducted in human history. A game that the American government paid millions to create, but wished they had never played. A game where all the rules were followed, all protocols were respected, and yet, the result was always the same: the end of civilization as we know it. And while you're watching this video, the same patterns this game revealed decades ago continue repeating around the world, as if history were a scratched record, always playing the same apocalyptic song. The year is 1983. Imagine a chess game where, no matter how you move the pieces, no matter how brilliant your strategy, the board always ends up in flames. That was Proud Prophet, and Ronald Reagan discovered there were things about war that not even the most powerful country in the world could control. It was the height of the Cold War. More than 60,000 nuclear weapons were scattered between the United States and Soviet Union, like two children playing with dynamite in a room full of gasoline. Reagan, the man who called the USSR an empire of evil, wanted to know if there was a way to win a nuclear war. Not just survive, but win. For this, he hired Thomas Schelling, a Harvard economist who had revolutionized game theory applied to warfare. Schelling was the kind of mind that could transform the chaos of war into elegant mathematical equations. If anyone could find a formula to win the unthinkable, it would be him. But what they discovered was much worse than they had imagined. Proud Prophet wasn't just any game. It was one of the most sophisticated military simulations ever created, bringing together more than 200 people at the National War College in Washington. Generals, analysts, strategists, an entire auditorium dedicated to discovering how to win the unthinkable. Think of it as a laboratory of the apocalypse. For 2 weeks, they played different scenarios: a surprise attack, a gradual escalation, a diplomatic misunderstanding. 13 different scenarios, 13 distinct ways for the world to catch fire. And in each one, the players had access to real information, real protocols, real arsenals. And here comes the part nobody expected. It didn't matter how the game started. It didn't matter who took the first step. It didn't matter if the escalation was fast or gradual. The result was always the same: total nuclear war. 13 simulations, 13 apocalypses, 0 victories. It was like discovering that gravity wasn't just a law of physics, but a death sentence for anyone who tried to fly. But how exactly does this happen? How can the entire world end in just 1 hour? Let me take you through one of the scenarios the simulations explored. Close your eyes and imagine. It's 2:30 p.m. on any Tuesday. You're at work, thinking about what you'll have for dinner tonight. At this exact moment, on the outskirts of Pyongyang, North Korea, a Hwasong-17 intercontinental ballistic missile is launched. Second one, the ICBM begins its fuel burn. A bright flame over 300 feet tall emerges from the ground, visible from space. 30 seconds. American satellites automatically detect the characteristic burn of an ICBM. Computers calculate a probable trajectory. East coast of the United States. Washington. 3 minutes. The American Military High Command is assembled in an emergency room at the Pentagon. A general picks up the red phone and dials the president. "Sir, we have a problem." 5 minutes. The ICBM finishes its burn phase and disappears from satellites, flying invisible at more than 600 miles high. The American president is being carried to a bunker by Secret Service agents. And here things get really tense. The president opens a small briefcase that accompanies him 24 hours a day. The nuclear football. Inside it, a manual that has been compared to a fast food menu. But instead of hamburgers, these are destruction options. Limited strike, 50,000 dead. Moderate strike, 2 million dead. Total retaliation, 150 million dead. 11 minutes. Here comes the first impossible decision. A single missile from North Korea isn't enough to destroy American retaliation capability. Would this be a real attack? A show of force? A mistake? The president has 4 minutes to decide whether to destroy an entire country because of a single missile. 15 minutes. The decision is made. American bomber aircraft take off carrying nuclear weapons. It's the only option that can be aborted if it's an error. 24 minutes. Here the situation changes completely. Radars detect a second group of launches. A North Korean submarine has surfaced near the American west coast and fired 8 nuclear warheads. Now there are 9 bombs in the air, and impact time is just minutes away. Nuclear submarines are the most terrifying weapon that exists. Invisible until they attack, capable of launching multiple warheads just minutes away from the target. It's like having an invisible assassin with a machine gun hidden in your backyard. 30 minutes. The American president authorizes total retaliation. 50 ICBMs are launched from American soil. 30 bombs are fired from submarines. In less than half an hour, 82 targets in North Korea will be erased from the map. 35 minutes. The 9 North Korean bombs hit the United States. Washington ceases to exist. A fireball miles in diameter replaces the American Capitol. The electromagnetic pulse from the explosion disables the presidential helicopter even miles away. The President of the United States is probably dead. But wait, the truth is even worse. 45 minutes. And here we reach the true horror of the Proud Prophet simulations. There's a deadly flaw in the American nuclear system. Almost all American ICBM trajectories to North Korea pass over Russian territory. From Moscow's perspective, 50 American missiles are flying toward their airspace. American diplomats try to contact Russia. It's not against you, but should Russia believe them? If the Russians delay their retaliation and they're wrong, they'll be dead. 50 minutes. Russia launches 1,000 nuclear weapons against the United States and its allies. The logic is implacable. Any hesitation is a fatal vulnerability. Better to be wrong and alive than right and dead. 55 minutes. The United States, even with its capital destroyed, retaliates with another 1,000 ICBMs against Russia. Each missile carries the destructive power of 600 Hiroshima bombs. That's more than 1 million Hiroshimas flying through the air simultaneously. 60 minutes. The first bombs begin to explode. First, the bombs that explode in the atmosphere to generate electromagnetic pulses. The entire electrical grid of the northern hemisphere collapses in seconds. Then come the bombs on urban centers: London, Paris, Moscow, New York, all replaced by mushroom clouds. In 1 hour, 500 million people are dead. In the following days, that number will reach 1 billion. The infrastructure that allowed countries to exist simply doesn't exist anymore. The world as we knew it is over. And it all started with a single missile from a small country. But how is it possible that brilliant minds always reach the same catastrophic result? Thomas Schelling wasn't just an economist. He was an archaeologist of human nature, someone who could see patterns where others saw only chaos. His game theory applied to war revealed something that generals preferred to ignore. In a nuclear war, rationality becomes the very cause of destruction. It works like this. Imagine you're in a duel, but both duelists are blind and deaf. You know the other is armed. You know he can shoot at any moment, but you don't know his intentions. The only information you have is that if the other shoots first, you're dead. What's the most rational strategy? Shoot first. Now multiply that by nuclear powers, each with thousands of weapons, each knowing that hesitation means extinction. Schelling called this reciprocal fear of surprise attack. During the Proud Prophet simulations, this mechanism worked with mathematical precision. Each player made perfectly rational decisions based on available information. Each escalation was justified. Each retaliation was proportional. And yet, the result was always mutual annihilation. It was as if logic itself were a virus spreading through the game, infecting each decision, each move, until nothing remained but radioactive ashes. The participants left those 2 weeks with a visceral understanding of something that numbers couldn't express. There is no strategy to win a nuclear war. There is only the illusion of control, the same illusion a surfer has when trying to ride a tsunami. And here comes something that will shock you. Decades have passed since Proud Prophet, but the patterns it revealed continue repeating. The mathematics of escalation hasn't changed. The psychology of fear hasn't evolved. The logic of mutual destruction remains the same. If Schelling were alive today, he would immediately recognize the signs. The world no longer has just 2 superpowers playing nuclear chess. Now the board is full of new players. North Korea has turned provocation into art. Iran walks toward nuclear capability. China has emerged as a third superpower with arsenals that rival the Americans. And periodically, we see echoes of the simulations materializing in real life. Attacks on nuclear facilities followed by retaliations. Escalations that begin with diplomatic protests and end with missiles flying. Each move perfectly rational leading to the next perfectly rational move. It's like watching the 13 Proud Prophet simulations happening simultaneously around the world, each approaching the same inevitable ending that the simulations predicted decades ago. But why is this more dangerous today than in 1983? Here's what makes Proud Prophet more relevant today. The world hasn't become safer. It's become more complex. In the 80s, the game was simple. 2 superpowers, clear rules, established communication channels. It was like a chess match between 2 grandmasters. Today, the board has multiple players, each with their own rules, objectives, and weapons. Direct communication doesn't always exist. Misunderstandings are more likely. And the warning systems, created to detect hundreds of Soviet missiles, now need to distinguish between a scientific rocket launch and a nuclear attack from a country that might have only a few weapons. In 1995, Russia almost launched nuclear missiles against the United States because they confused a Norwegian scientific rocket launch with an American submarine missile. Imagine that same confusion happening today, with more countries involved, more regional tensions, more failure points. And we arrive at the most frightening part of this entire story. Proud Prophet ended in 1983. But its most important lesson wasn't about nuclear war. It was about human nature, about how our rationality can lead us to completely irrational results, about how the fear of appearing weak can make us catastrophically destructive. Schelling knew this. He had seen in the simulations how intelligent generals, men dedicated to protecting their countries, made decisions that led to the destruction of everything they swore to protect. Not out of malice, but out of logic. Not out of madness, but out of rationality. And that's the true curse of Proud Prophet. It didn't show us that world leaders are crazy. It showed us that they're human. And that sometimes, being human isn't enough to prevent the end of the world. Perhaps the most terrifying aspect of Proud Prophet is that its participants knew exactly how it would end. In the final rounds of each simulation, when nuclear escalation became inevitable, the players didn't stop. They continued making decisions, continued following protocols, continued being rational until the end. Why? Because stopping would mean admitting there's no strategy to win. It would mean admitting that all the military apparatus, all the deterrence doctrine, all the preparation for nuclear war is fundamentally an illusion. And maybe that's exactly what's happening today. Maybe our leaders know, deep down, that they're playing a game they can't win. But they keep playing because stopping would mean admitting we've built a world where our own rationality can destroy us. 60 minutes. That's all we have between civilization and chaos, between reason and madness, between the world we know and the world Proud Prophet predicted. And each day that passes, that clock moves a little faster. Not because world leaders are more aggressive than before, but because the mathematics of escalation remain the same. The patterns Schelling identified decades ago continue operating, like laws of physics applied to international politics. Proud Prophet taught us that there are no winners in a nuclear war. But it also taught us something darker, that this might not be enough to stop us from playing it. The question isn't whether we'll learn Proud Prophet's lesson. The question is whether we'll learn it before it's too late. Because this time, it's not a simulation, and there's no way to restart the game. Is this scenario realistic? Could this really happen? What do you think about the patterns the simulations revealed? Because in the end, knowledge is just the beginning.